Who am I? What am I doing? Where am I? Where are you? What are you doing? What is good? What is not good? What is time? What time is it really? Where is now? When are you? What is this about? Does this have meaning? What does this mean to you? What do you give? What do you do? Who are you really? Does this matter? What kind of life do you have? What is the best time of life? Does death matter? Is memory loss a gift? Is struggle beneficial? What makes you attractive? Can people be attracted? Am I a narcissist? Are all artists narcissists? Am I an open person? Are all artists open people? Why do I question my activities so much? Do I see through a lens of experience, or do I see reality? Why do we keep breathing? What's the meaning of a fingernail? Why do we have pet? Why do we have love? Why do we need friends? Is passion as exciting as empty? Is clarity what we really want? I want to know more. How do we know? How do we know anything at all? Why? Is there a right answer to anything? Where does a thought come from? How do you know if it's a good idea? How do you trust yourself? How do you know? Who are you? Who am I? To say, well, I'm just going to burn it all. I think that's the way that I have to think about things in order to look at the value of it. When I was younger, when I was in my early teen years, up until I was about 16, 17, I wanted to be an architect. I think the joy is would be the discarding of it's kind of a weight. A career is kind of a weight that you have at the end of it. So designing houses, I designed about 5 homes over those years. with like views and sketches of the outside and the east side, the west side. You've made some mistakes, you've made some good work, you've made some bad work. It's quite detailed. And so walls are, for me, protection, of course, but they're also the structure that's holding the roof up. So by completely severing your relationship with it, which would mean, and violently would be killing it somehow, so burning it, I think there's a certain freedom in that would then, you'd sort of go like, oh my God, I can't refer to it anymore, I can't show anybody anymore, I can't. And maybe it would stop me talking about it, which would be great. When we think of dancing, we think of a structure or making a work. There's a structure that holds it together. So for me, the walls are not so much protective, but ways of traveling between the chairs. We'll say there's entrances. So I think it would allow me to move into a new section of my life in complete freedom. It also is a structure to build on because I could be anyone I choose to be. So it is the structure of that city of dreams past that is made up of all those images and sounds, rather than being weighted by the past. A life contained in 15 square feet. That's just like, wow, a life contained in 15 square feet. So there's kind of a universal thing about saying, this is what I did.
People have always found my work to be
funny. That's all it is, folks.
I have no intention of being funny.
Just like this, I haven't seen this.
And I think I think it's just for me.
Sense of humor. I've tried to make a funny piece. It doesn't.
I can't. I'm also afraid of people laughing in 20 years.
Yeah, but then there's things like...
And if I'm not there, because I can laugh at some of them.
Why they find it funny, I don't know. Why they find it emotional, I don't know.
I don't like anything that...
But I used to take it because people used to sometimes cry and somebody was really laughing, somebody crying. And it would be, I think it's the juxtaposition of imagery, and I try and make things as pure as possible.
I saw somebody once open up a thing on Martha Graham and watch an old videotape and they were laughing.
For me, it works.
I try and keep, I mean, it's impossible, but try and keep it open enough so that somebody with a different experience than the person next to them would get something different.
Because that person was very serious at the time.
But if it's just like...
I'm not about to say this means this gesture or this image means something. Every weekend, it might mean something to me. But I think it's an open meaning, depending on your experience.
So I got to wear negligees to bed, which maybe is
I wore dresses during the day.
Just be a pile of melted plastic.
As a big long, like her dresses were long on you, so I wore full dresses and I danced.
We'll do that for February and we'll put it in the hallway. Am I open? Sometimes I'm and a lot of times I'm very love the idea that this but what I started to do thin stuff I've been so much photographing for 40 years make something in the first 10 years. So when videotapes came out, it was like I think I was learning about, because I think that creation requires a certain amount of openness and the fact that it also a certain amount of concentration. Concentration is also the practice. So it's like working with that. Where does an idea come from? So understanding that. So I didn't know what was going on the first 10 years, and then the next 10 years I was studying Zen. So the next 10 years I started looking at where I was an open place or a closed place. And I started to test only the ideas that were coming from a very open place.
Wanting to have a relationship, but always being
So I'd say
Well,
that
it is a stark dichotomy.
most of
It's always been this desire to be,
I sort of like that one. That was like
you know, in a couple, because that's what we're taught.
the spiritual.
Will sort of make us happy. But some of my happiest times are more when I'm single. I feel more myself. I don't like myself in love. I just don't like what it is I turn into when I'm in so-called love. Because I'm not sure I even know what real love is.
I left contemporary dancers to develop my choreographic craft, and I thought I'd break down dance. Just the most simplest thing that I could possibly do. So what would that be? There's turning, there's walking, there's balancing, and I went, balancing. So I got into balancing, and I didn't get into investigating the rest. I did get into some walking and some turning. I do some turning. But the balancing just sort of kept going for like 30 years. So I first of all started balancing grapefruits on my eye. Then I started with sticks. So in 1994 I walked across the stage for 30 minutes with a stick balancing on my head. And then I started to balance things on other objects. So I'm still investigating balancing. I'm a Libra, so it seemed very apropos that this is how I spend my life. The whole thing with that piece with the stick on my head for the whole work was me coming out to the dance community as a monk, because I had just been made a monk, or taken monk's vows, as we say. My teacher had been wanting to get me to practice on stage. And so by balancing a stick on my head, I had to feel my hands, feel my feet, peripheral vision, and the moment that a thought would come, the point of the stick would start to move. If I got into a thought, it would remind me that I had to open my attention to reality. Winnipeg Free Press, Thursday, July 21st, 1983. Foundation's structure collapses. Foundations, which opened at the gas station theatre to an audience of about 180 last night, is touted as a total experience combining dance, theatre, and music. Whatever the excellence of some of the elements of this collaboration, the experience that is its outcome has to be judged an incoherent artistic failure. The dancing by Ted Robinson and 4 of the Contemporary Dancers Company is manifestly skillful, if somewhat repetitiously convulsive. Unfortunately, the spoken poetry supplied by Robinson to tie the whole package together is flaccid, predictable, repetitive, pretentious, and badly spoken. The choreography holds considerable technical interest as Robinson experiments with bizarre forms and wild images of decadence. As the show progresses, however, the dance, effective in its own right, tends to merge with the bad poetry and the cliché-ridden idea structure to create a vision of infantile sentimentality and self-pity. If there were a tightness in the writing and an absence of self-indulgence in the philosophical structure, the evening might, well, yield a genuine artistic experience. As it is, one longs for an indication of wit, irony, or conscious humor to assure us that everything that is embarrassing, boring, pretentious, and gauche has been put there intentionally as a parody or outright hoax. Such an indication never comes, and one is left to make what one can of sequences in which a shoe fetish serves as a symbol of identity loss. It's my favorite review. So my grandmother, she was quite a radical. And what we would do, so these are the interesting things we would do. We would go for walks. She would pee in bushes. We'd go for walks by the river and we would hold hands and sing and skip. And every weekend that I spent with her, I spent in her clothes. So I got to wear negligees to bed. I wore dresses during the day. Big long, like her dresses were long on me, so I wore full dresses and I danced for her. We'd stay up on Saturday night, eat onion sandwiches. Just butter, bread, and onions. We would drink strong tea. The way she made tea was one for you, one for me, and one for the pot. In a little pot, and she'd pour me tea and I'd drink it. And we'd gamble. She taught me how to play cards and gamble for pennies. And then we'd go to bed and I'd sleep with her and her dog in like a bed and a half. She was like really encouraging me to dress in women's clothes. She never thought there was anything wrong with it, so I never thought there was anything wrong with it. Like, she passed that on to me. So then when I started to perform, for me to wear a dress was not a big deal, because it was like this was normal for being around performance, because there's a dance for her. The other thing that used to happen, she used to tell me stories. She would say that she felt she had power because she knew before her brother died, she knew he was going to die. And then she knew before her father died that he was going to die. Because the full moon was coming in through the window, and she woke up and she went, and sure enough, the next day, her brother died. And sure enough, the next day, her father died. So I think that I was very lucky to encounter this person. Everything was due to encountering this person.
For me, and this is what I try and pass on to people, is to find out, to start to recognize when you do recognize that you have a good idea and it's tested and it's true and it's like, wow, that was a really good idea. Think back to when you thought about it and where did it come from? me, it works this way. If it comes from like here or here, if it's like, poof, idea, I trust it. If it comes from like here, 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 or it's like strained, like a bit of, but if it's just like, it's a good idea, I trust that.
To my joy, what's happening now is that people in the last, well, even in the last 20 years, I mean, it was happening in the 80s, where people started to develop their own styles. And now it is so much that what dancing is about is developing you, who you are as a dancer, who you are as a choreographer, and it has to do with what movements you use and what your style is, what your interests are, what you're curious about, affectations. It's all about distortion. There's very little to do with form anymore, in my opinion. And what I encourage in people is to find their way to do something. If I see a retire and somebody using a retire, I say, well, why are you doing that? What does that mean? It means nothing, unless you give it meaning. Please let it be original. That's what I want to see. That's what I'm interested in. And that's what I've always been interested in, is the body expressing itself as you.
A life. A life contained in square feet. I danced a lot when I was young, but I didn't. And then I just wanted to I started dancing on my own in the living room all the time.
dancing was really a way for me to get from my imaginary world into my body. I wanted to be a choreographer. I wanted to learn the language that I would be speaking with dancers. But really what I wanted to do was to be able to teach them what I was doing in my living room. And it took me quite a long time to be able to actually communicate what I wanted with the dancers, because all of a sudden I realized that I did not want to speak the language of their dancing. I wanted to make my own language. The interior world in which I live in the dancing business was that I wanted to become a rock star. I still do. And that's what I do. I lip sync and dance around. And I've been doing it since I was really young, and I still do it. Embarrassingly enough. I'll talk about the beginning of my professional dance career. I was in London. There was no entertainment allowed in the pubs. But one night I got drunk. And Ballroom Blitz came on. And I got up. And I danced. Ballroom Blitz. And actually there was a wedding, a rural wedding while I was there in November. The pubs were really crowded that day because it was kind of a holiday and people were drinking a lot, and I danced and I caused a knife fight. And I was barred from the pub for 2 weeks. And the guy, the owner apologized profusely, said, I have to do it. Because you were dancing and this knife fight broke out, and a life contained in 15 square feet.
I'm certainly not enlightened. Am I open? Sometimes I'm open. A lot of times I'm very contracted. But what I started to learn, I've been choreographing for 40 years. In the first 10 years, I think I was learning about, because I think that creation requires a certain amount of openness and also a certain amount of concentration. And concentration is also a contraction. So I didn't know what was going on the first 10 years, and then the next 10 years I was studying Zen. So I'd say that looking back on a lot of my work, the early 80s and the 80s, that was like experimentation. That's like spiritual shopping, we'll say. I think that what I deal with when watching all this stuff and putting all this stuff together is a real, like, devastatingly horrible contraction of narcissistic feelings. Like, what the heck am I doing a piece about all of this stuff? Even if you think of an autopsy, you're slicing something open. So you're opening it up to find out what it is, what killed it. And even, I think, looking at the photographs and all of that kind of stuff, it's like you start to recognize all the bad stuff about you. And because you can't do anything about it unless you see it. So you can't work with it if you're just covering it up all the time. So by actually exposing all this stuff that was like photographs we taken and newspaper articles and all that kind of stuff, by putting it all out there but using it in this way is like taking a different look at it and looking at it not from me being on the inside but me on the outside going, yeah, this photograph, or I don't even recognize that fellow. I'm nothing to do with this guy anymore. As one gets older, mirrors are scary because you don't recognize yourself as you just quickly pass by. It's okay to do something like brush your teeth or do a function because you're looking at what you're doing. So shaving, you're looking at where you're shaving. You're not looking at you. It's just when you walk by a mirror or a store window, and this is very common. Many people talk about this at a certain age, that you happen to see yourself somewhere and you just don't recognize yourself. It's like, who is that? I don't know who that is. You don't recognize yourself. You're just like, scary. So they scare me. When I first saw Lindsay's work, I was astonished because, first of all, he was using music that I loved, that was like, I thought was my special music. The imagery was fantastic. This is Flowers. The imagery was gay, beautiful, green lights, which was forbidden on stage at that time for dance for some reason. Green light was a no-no. So I, of course, used green light in Crimes of Difficult Proof. And I was only a student. I wasn't even in his company. But I luckily got to spend some time with him, so that was lovely. But his classes really, really changed what I felt. Like, for instance, doing a sit-up was not as doing a sit-up. Doing a
Lindsay, sit up as you're dying, the sunset is going, you're dead, you're finally dead, and then you wake up, you take your first breath, and it's like, you come up, you see the sunrise, and that's a sit up. So you can imagine what the training was like. And he would talk and burn incense throughout the 3-hour class. He would totally improvise and talk through experiences that he would guide you through. And a lot of it was about dying, and a lot of it about living, and a lot of it was loving, a lot of it falling in love. So that was your class. One day he gave a ballet combination, and there was usually about 30 to 40 people in class, and a lot of them were just off the street. They were theater people. There was not many dance people except for a couple of people that I knew. He gave a little combination, and of course my dancerly self, I had just graduated from York, my dancerly self did it perfectly. He went, no. He held up class for 10 minutes. He said, you're not dancing. That's not dance. What are you doing? And so I did it again. I said, no, you're not dancing. I don't feel anything from you. You're not dancing at all. And finally, after 10 minutes, unrecognizable vocabulary from ballet came out of me, and I was flying and doing the thing, but I was moving, and I was ecstatic, and I was, I practically yelled, because that's what he was bringing out of me. He said, that's dance. So sorry, very emotional today. Damn.
What came up when you were telling that story?
All the misunderstandings that I grew up with and that I was taught about I was always wrong. So, just that. And people still do say I'm wrong. And yet I'm still doing it. And I'm still happy doing it. And that's why I say it's charmed, but it hasn't been a breeze. But because I had this trajectory that I wanted to do, and I just had the opportunities, and I was able to do it, and I was supported. And every time somebody got in my way and said, no, you shouldn't do that, I just left, because I believe in what I'm doing.
And in that moment when you just felt like overwhelmed, were you remembering the moment when he told you that wasn't right, like in class?
No, I was remembering the moment that I found it. What was right. Changed my life.
feel myself
runs wild.
I can hear myself
Listening to Leonard David Blue.
just me.
I can hear myself.
New keys.
I can feel my hands.
Lock all the doors.
I can taste the air.
My heart
I can sense we're here.
runs wild.
I can hear myself.
Listening to Leonard David Blue. Something
I can hear myself.
stops me down.
I can feel my hands.
Fear of the blue.
I can taste the air.
Slow down.
I can sense we're here.
Unfold.
I can make something new.
Leonard David Blue.
I can sense the care. I can sense we're here. I can taste the air. I can sense the care.